staffed and functioning, then it's a matter of administering the day in and day out needs of the station and its people. Directly, that's done and handled by the in-house station manager at the respective station. But overall, I'm here to guide and counsel with those station managers in that operation.
In the advertising business. This is Mr. Joseph W.O. O'Donnell, and he is the Chief Executive Officer of William Esty Company. You remember how many other people you met from William Esty? Hi, Joseph.
How are you, Glendora?
Very good. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
You were born where, Joseph?
Outside of Boston, in Newton, Massachusetts.
Hey, you can't go wrong there. In Dedham?
In Newton.
Near Dedham?
Near Dedham. How would you know about Dedham?
Well, there's an old joke about that, about the woman, the little old woman who went to California, and they said to her, by what route did you come to California? And she says, via Dedham. And you went to the Newton schools, Joseph?
Newton High School.
Wow.
All the public schools, and then to Columbia College beyond that. And
Columbia, and what? And could you tell the boys and girls, Joseph, what you took as an undergraduate?
Liberal arts major, in economics and English literature.
Now, would you say that's a good background for what you do?
Well, I think it was good for me, but I have a preference to liberal arts for some of the younger people, simply because I don't think there's that many of us at 18 that really know what we want to do with our lives.
And first job out of Columbia?
Working for Doyle Dane Bernbach, which is another advertising.
Yes, a big one.
And went there on a training program and spent the first 7 or 8 years of my career there.
Now, that's how you got in on the training program?
Yes.
Do they have those today, Joseph?
Yes, most of the larger agencies have a good training program, and I think it's a good way for most of the younger people to join our business today.
You do?
Yeah.
And then what did they give you after 7 years? What promotion?
Well, I left Doyle Dane Bernbach. I was a Vice President Management Supervisor over a number of pieces of business there, Heinz Ketchup, Ralston Purina.
Wow.
What have you.
You're a whiz after 7 years?
Well, they were fortunate in that, I was fortunate in that they happened to have a lot of bright people there for me to work with, so.
And next step?
I was in my own business with another couple of folks for 2 years before joining J. Walter Thompson in New York.
Oh, really? What did you do at J. Walter?
Started in New York working on a few pieces of business, Samsonite luggage, Warner.
Yeah.
Then I was sent to Detroit to run the Detroit operation, which included the Ford business.
Oh.
Progressed.
And that was the beginning. And what cable company was that?
Well, it was a manufacturing company. It was Westbury Electronics, and I went in there as a technician to work in a laboratory to develop cable television products. And at that time, we only had 3 channels we could transmit on a cable. And I stayed there till I had progressed in that company again through education. I had gone to Farmingdale, I had gone to C.W. Post College, and I had progressed up to the quality control manager. And at times I was the engineer in charge of the cable division. And so I said to myself, well, I've gone far enough in this company, it's time to move out. Right. And in the early 60s, I decided to go out, and I went out to the eastern end of Long Island and moved my family from the home we had in Garden City Park out to Wading River, and got a job with a cable television company at Long Island Cablevision. It's known as Dimension today.
Dimension today?
Yeah.
What's the most exciting part of your work today?
I think coming to my job, I'm really never knowing what I'm going to do for the day. The job is very varied. I try to set up schedules. I do have appointments from time to time, but my job primarily is to oversee an operation, and the managers will come to me from time to time, and they'll ask me my opinion about certain things, or whether a contract is appropriate or not. So I leave the day very flexible.
Do you? What do you like best about it?
Best about my job, I think, is seeing the rewards of a program that you institute. You work with a cable manager, and he's got a particular idea that he thinks he wants.
That's the most creative part.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Have to use funds, business related.
Glendora is very smart. She repaired a videotape that wouldn't work, and it had some things on it that she wanted to make a record of to complete the archives. And she took them apart. She took 2 or 3 of the videotapes apart and took the things out of the box. And it was sort of tricky and intricate, because if you took it out upside down, the things would all fall apart and you couldn't tell where they should go. But then she took it apart right side up and saw how all the little pieces were in there, and studied that, and then she was able to do that to the one that didn't work, and she interchanged some of the things, and the upshot of it was that finally it worked. She succeeded. And she was able to complete the records in the archives. So that was a great accomplishment. And she stuck to it with her usual perseverance and intelligence, and she accomplished it.
Which is where I'd grown up. At that point, we had moved every 2 years for about 12 or 14 years, and I thought it was time to settle down and educate my children. So we stayed. So we stayed in Minnesota for 1.5 years.
I see. We moved every 2 years, but it was because the rent came due. And you stayed there 1.5 years.
Stayed there 1.5 years, and then I came to the state of New York.
And what happens in this business is it's rare that you can stay with the thing you love, because you develop other responsibilities, and you find yourself doing what you love less and less, and more and more what has to be done.
And you have to take the promotions as they come.
Well, I guess you don't have to, but if you don't, it's tough.
Yeah, and it does, as he says, get you away from what you really want to do. And so what was the next promotion after that?
Well, from a writer, I became a producer at ABC Radio.
You did?
Yeah, and we used to produce all the space shots for ABC, and a lot of documentaries, and something called This Week a Year Ago, which was a regular ongoing thing.
That's a good idea, yeah.
And then when the Vietnam War started, I produced something called Vietnam Update, which won a Headliners Award. So
you did?
Yes, I kept doing that until I was convinced that television was here to stay. And then I went in 1966, I went over to WABC Radio. Television.
Television, you did?
Yes.
Channel 7.
Channel 7, it wasn't Eyewitness News yet, it was then just Channel 7.
News, yeah.
And we called it the Big News, and it was one day it was 15 minutes, the next day it was 45 minutes. It was, but we were just growing then, and it became, with a few changes, it became Eyewitness News in about 1968.
And what was your next step after that?
Well, I became assignment editor. I was a writer and a producer at WABC TV, and then I became assignment editor, and then I became executive producer of Eyewitness News, and then I became news director of Eyewitness News.
Oh.
You want me to go on?
Yes.
And then I became vice president of news for the ABC-owned stations, which included New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Detroit.
Oh.
And then we started something called the ABC News Advisory Service, and I did that for a couple of years, and then in 1979 I became vice president and executive producer of 2020, which
Did you?
it was just getting started. It was a little shaky at the time because it
Isn't that
got off a
interesting?
pretty soft start, but it did.
You love news, don't you?
I love news. I love television. I would do anything I could on television. It's better than owning a liquor store. You know? Oh yeah, I know Roger very well.
From Minnesota.
Yeah, from Duluth, Minnesota, right? And in fact, he was born in Silver Bow County. And I can tell you when.
Go ahead.
He's a terrific guy, and he's doing very well on NBC. And congratulations.
Yeah, I like that he does on Channel 4 on Live at 5. Yeah. We interviewed him, you know, in his apartment. Oh, he's a very difficult interview. And he hit me hard all the time, you know, and the harder he hit, the more I loved.
He's
the softer I got.
He's a tough guy.
He's tough, yeah.
But he's
finally
honest,
gave up
and
to
he's
him.
straightforward,
Yeah.
and he's a good newsman. We don't have many of those.
He finally gave up, and he really did settle down and gave the boys and girls some good advice.
Don't jump away from it. Don't be afraid of computers. Don't be afraid of chyrons and character generators and so forth. Learn those things. If you have no love for them, go toward the thing you have a love for. Make sure you have that other stuff in your back pocket, because you're going to need it to get to the point where you're going to make your real living.
How would you go about getting the first job? Do anything?
I would do anything. I would do anything professional. I would also try to find someone inside the company or companies with whom you have established some kind of an understanding that you will call maybe once a week, maybe once a month, and make that person realize that when you call, you're not going to be rejected when they say no, but they're going to say no 100 times. And what you don't want them to feel is every time they say no to you, that they're rejecting you and they're making you feel bad, because they won't take the call anymore. So if you can at least let them know that no matter how many times you call, you'll be happy with any kind of response, if it's yes or no. And eventually, that's what happened with me, eventually they're going to put you on, and they're going to give you a chance because of your persistence, because of your patience, because of your good nature.
Yeah, and they'll need you.
And they'll need you.
Someday, some emergency will come, they'll need you.
They're going to need you just in the natural course of doing business.
Yeah.
Home, that they not go on these long treks, these very dramatic treks into the hinterlands to small, tiny stations where you know no one and have no support and no backup, and you're doing it on the word of someone you don't know. I think you can start at least enough to learn the business close by.
Oh, that's good. Nobody ever said that before.
This week on News 4, I've been reporting on a tragedy.
Television network that's located in the Philadelphia area.
It is,
Has been in existence for over 11 years, founded in September of 1976. And we bring to the Philadelphia area a mixture of premium pay television programming that consists of the sports teams in Philadelphia, We carry the Philadelphia Flyers hockey team, the 76ers basketball team, and the Phillies baseball team. In addition to that, we carry all the first-run movies that you would see on your national pay television services.
Well, that's exciting. How did you get into this business, Don?
I have a financial background initially, graduates, that if you do the things that are necessary to get ahead, that'll happen.
Yeah. I have a financial background too, boys and girls. I'm broke. Isn't that a good No.
We have about 420,000 subscribers
Wow.
in the Philadelphia marketplace. Probably 3 ingredients that everyone has to look at.
Yes.
I think, first of all, people have to prepare themselves, whether that be educationally, whether they are getting themselves informed by reading. If they are students in high school or college, they should try to get internships in the field that they think that they would like to work in. And all of that is part of being prepared for opportunities that might come up. The second thing that I think that everyone has to do is to work hard. When you get into that internship or whether you get into that paid employment, there are things that you're going to have to be doing that are going to be requested of you that you may not want to do. You have to do every job and do it well. That's preparation that someone does. Coupled with the hard work, they're going to be prepared for a very significant thing to happen, and that's opportunity and luck to come along. I think opportunity comes along for people every day, but they haven't prepared themselves to either recognize it or accept it, and they let it go by. There are a lot of people out there who work very hard, but they haven't prepared themselves, and part of that is to be aware. They may be doing their job. They don't look to see what's happening in other areas of the company or the enterprise they're with. And so they haven't totally prepared themselves. So when the opportunity comes along, they can take advantage of it.
Ron Mahalik. We'll see you later on the 10 o'clock news. Till then,
It includes your videotaping, and 200,000 people will see it. See if we can start you on your way to being rich and famous.
Which of these sports comes a little easier?
Hi, folks. A woman's work is never done, thanks to daytime TV. And in spite of what you read in the newspapers, people do not die in alphabetical order. And Paul says he can't afford to fly to Rome, Paris, or Hong Kong, but his luggage has been to all 3. Bob and Joan are celebrating their 10th anniversary, 8 years of eating out of cans. Regardless, you can ask for Mr. Foss and see if we can't start you on your way to being rich and famous. Hi, boys and girls. A chat with Glendora, and this is Mr. Richard White, who's the Vice President and General Manager of WFAS AM and WFAS FM. Hi, Richard.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, good, thanks. How are you doing?
It's nice to be here. I'm doing fine.
Well, tell the boys and girls, won't you, just a itty bit about WFAS AM and FM.
Well, WFAS AM is a news talk radio station in Westchester County with full of Westchester news and information, and it's the station to listen to when the school's going to be closed because of storms. The FM is a music station.
Well, that's all music?
It's all music, adult contemporary music, which is basically soft hits. You might know it as soft hits, and that also carries local news and school closings and local weather reports as well.
What fun. We love to hear about school closings, Richard.
Oh, yes. It's very important is that you, maybe if not in the beginning, at least at some point, go into sales, because sales is the most important, well, not the most important part of it, but it's a critical area for...
Get a job in sales somewhere.
Get a job in sales, radio, through radio stations or through radio representative firms.
Is it hard to do?
It is hard. The barriers to entry are there. It's not a huge industry, so you have to be very persistent, and the ones that get in are the ones that are just a little more persistent, but it's well worth it.
And the television commercial business, also work in the movie business. So
Well,
for me, it was exciting.
Yes, sure, it was exciting. Now, Jay, tell the boys and girls what were some of the most exciting commercials that you created.
Oh, there were so many of them.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, just give us some.
What I liked working on, especially over the last 20 years, and I've been doing this 20 years now, I did a lot of the commercials for American Express Card, American Express Traveler's Checks, and I was working with Carl Malden.
You did?
And other
Yeah.
people like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Huggies diapers,
Uh-huh.
Hershey chocolates, the Hershey candy bar, I did commercials for them. For Glade air
Isn't that
fresheners, for
exciting?
Maxwell House Coffee,
Yeah.
for Pepsi International. I did commercials and print ads, really, Sears, for really some of the biggest companies in America.
I should say, yeah.
And the biggest thrill I could get at that time, especially now, also now I should say, is that when you, one of the things about becoming a writer, which was important to me, was it was a way that I could say I exist.
Yes.
You face a blank piece of paper, and you come up with an idea, you create something, and
Yeah.
then suddenly it's on television one day, and you say,
Sure.
wow, I did that.
Sure, that's a big thrill. I can see, yeah, I can see that. And it,
Taking an existing product or an existing service, and you put together a book which would have 2 or 3 ads and 2 or 3 commercials for each of those products or services. The best way to do it, though, is to take some courses that in schools that teach people how to put together a book and how to create ads and how to create concepts. And there are a couple of good ones, at least down in New York City. One is Pratt, and the other is the School of Visual Arts. And we tend to hire people who have been at those schools because at least they've been trained and educated to a degree as to what's the best way to approach creating advertising.
tell the boys and girls about Morgan Stanley. What is Morgan Stanley?
Well, we're an international investment banking firm. Most people would believe that we sell common stocks, which is the general idea that the public has of our firm, but we do a lot more for our clients and raise capital for them in the debt markets and work on mergers and acquisitions.
Oh, you do?
Augusta, Maine.
You know, boys and girls, when I was just a little person your age, we lived next to a very, very nice lady in Bangor, Maine, and her name was Stackpole, and she taught me how to play Chinese checkers, and she also let us play croquet on her lawn. I remember her. She was such a nice lady. Do you think that that woman was related to your dad?
Sure could be.
Because it's an unusual name.
Yeah,
isn't it?
there's only one family in Maine. We're all related.
Oh, God.
That is going on here. Now this has also been covered and copyright and everything else, all rights reserved by the firm. And the firm is the National Health Group. For those of you interested in taking this This is the Gateway National Park cruise, folks, with Captain William Stephan at the wheel, and it's something that we hope that all of you will get involved with because it's really a delight being out here. There's a very brisk breeze that is coming in on us right now. The water is nice and beautiful, and it's really quite a day to be out here. And we hope you're having as much fun as we are. Very shortly, going to go to the helm, and we're going to talk to Captain Stetton and find out what his viewpoint is on this and how he likes doing this. So just stick with us, folks. This is George Tooks for Glendora. We're right now in the wheelhouse of the Columbia, and we're having a ball. This gentleman you see in front of me with the brains and the steering wheel in one hand is Captain William Stephan. And it is Captain Stefan who is responsible for providing us the direct locations and everything else for the tour. Captain Stefan, I want to thank you first for inviting us to be guests on the Columbia.
Oh, you're very welcome. We're glad to have you.
Well, it's certainly my pleasure, so I'm really having a wonderful time, and I know everybody else is too. I understand that you have been involved with, you have been captain of this vessel for a few years now.
Yeah, I've been down here for about 8 years now.
That's really great. That is fantastic. Do you still get as much of a kick out of what you're doing as you did 8 years ago?
Oh yeah, I like the outdoors, and it's fun being around boats.
That's wonderful. How about right now you are seeing Bell Harbor, which is right here on the border. And look at the choppy waves as they're going up.
Boundary construction in 1664 removed from the Dutch king, ordering the removal of all restraints, a major victory for the force of the Resistance. However, this event was overshadowed by the English conquest of the land began in 1664. Long Island, Westchester, and Staten Island were combined as the county of Yorkshire and remained as such until 1683. At that time, the name Queens again appeared. At this time, the name covered an area including all of present-day Nassau County. The Queens settlement states their existence on agriculture, augmented by fishing and hunting.
We're now going to go topside and give you a bird's eye view of this beautiful cruise. We are now topside, and if you will look straight ahead, you'll see quite a few ships, or at least a couple now, that seem to be just resting from long days of work. Look over here at the work that we're now passing, and it must really be
SUNY at Binghamton to SUNY at Purchase. What did you do? How did you come into Purchase?
Well, I think the question you're asking really has to do with career, and as I look back on it, I got here sort of deliberately by accident. You don't plan to be a college president.
You don't?
You really don't know. You don't plan your career. Hardly anyone plans a career of that kind.
Oh.
You find that as a professor and as you get involved in the governance of the campus and committee work, that before you know it, you find yourself in a policy-making and decision-making position while you're still a member of the faculty.
Oh.
And then someone says to you one day, you know, you really are a natural administrator. You ought to think about administration. And somebody else says to you, well, you're doing it for nothing. Why don't you do it and get paid for it? And before you know it, you're a dean and then a president.
I see. You were a dean. And what were you a dean of?
I was dean of Harper College and the College of Arts and Sciences that are very important and I think equally likable or demanding. First, the institution needs leadership, internal leadership. You have to know what's happening on campus and be able to set directions and make policy and help people with decisions and sort of run the ship, steer the ship. That's job number one. Job number two, you've got to work with the community. You've got to reach out to the community. You've got to bring people in. You've got to mobilize interest in the campus, support for the campus, raise money for the campus, raise funds for the campus. And that's a very exciting part of the job because you meet so many interesting people who love education. And then you've got to work with the state of New York and the State University of New York and represent the college to the larger community, to the academic community, to the public community, to the political community, involve the legislators, reach out to just every section of every sector of the public, the parents, people who really support the university.
A senior
At
manager.
Pricewaterhouse, yes.
And you do what each day?
Well, I deal with my clients, helping them on accounting issues, financial issues, and mergers and acquisitions.
Ooh,
And a
isn't that interesting?
Quite a bit, and there's a lot of activity in that area.
Oh, yes, there's a lot now.
With mergers and acquisitions.
Really?
Yes. Many times our clients will identify a company they'd like to buy, and they ask us to go in and investigate the company, look at the financial records, talk to the people, learn the business, and then report back to them with our findings.
Well, that's very interesting.
Many times the purchase price will change based on the work we do, or some negotiating item will change, yes.
Yeah, so it's significant too.
Yes, quite a bit.
I think that's very exciting. Now, what advice, Kevin Raymond, would you give a youngster to get started in accounting today?
Well, I have a couple of tips to give to a person. One, I would suggest that they talk to someone who's actually in the business now, just to get a first-hand experience as to what their experiences have been.
That's good.
I guess the second tip, looking forward to a high school program or a college program, is in high school, many high schools offer accounting or bookkeeping courses or business courses. I would suggest taking one of those.
Yeah.
And then if you want to go ahead into accounting in college, look around for a good accounting program.
A good accounting program?
Yes.
Yours was a good one, Villanova.
It was very good, very good. I guess the third piece of advice would be to focus on your writing skills and your oral communication skills. People sometimes overlook that. They think of the business world and accounting as not a lot of interaction with people, and there is quite a bit.
Oh, there is.
And I mean, this is a perfect example of it. Here I am talking on in front of a TV camera.
True, Kevin. Yeah.
So I would suggest working on oral and written communications, and there are courses available.
We thank you for those 3 points. What's that interesting book you're
There's a booklet I brought on Pricewaterhouse serving the metropolitan area.
Oh.
And it's a little bit about our firm in the New York office. And if anyone would be interested, they can write to me, Kevin Raymond, Pricewaterhouse, 153 East 53rd Street, New York, New York, 10022. And I'd be happy to send them the booklet.
Oh.
Which is auto, home, schools.
Oh, I
In fact, we insure the high school in Rye.
You do?
Yeah.
You insure the high school in Rye?
Right, among
That's interesting.
many other high schools up and down the coast.
You do? Oh, that's interesting. Now, what's your part in it, John Casey?
Well, just became the vice president of the New York operations.
Oh, wow, good
last
for you.
November. And I run basically the personal lines, the underwriting, policy administration, and all the related areas that go along with it.
Oh, good. Learn the basics.
Learn the basics.
Yeah, start at the bottom.
Don't ever be afraid to start at the bottom. You learn a lot more about what makes a big company run if you start at the bottom. You really do.
Really?
And it.
Communicate. We try to help companies communicate, and we try and help people communicate. We try to help them tell their story the best possible way that they can to the public at large.
Oh, that's interesting.
Through radio, through television, like here, through newspapers, magazines, and just in general to communicate.
And a senior vice president, what does he have, his own accounts, or?
I have some of my own accounts. I also work as a senior counselor on any accounts that have to do with, lots of them having to do with the media, with radio and television, which is my background, and with the print and broadcasting and so on. I was born near Boston, in Cambridge. I grew up in Newton, Massachusetts. I spent much of my life in New York and overseas. I worked overseas for about 12 years, all in all.
Oh, we remember you on the telly.
Right.
Reporting from Paris, right?
I was a CBS News correspondent in Paris, and before that I was with the New York Times for 12 years.
Boy, I bet that was exciting.
It was. I've been in 51 countries.
Oh, really, David?
Mm-hmm. 51 countries.
Terrific, isn't it?
Covered wars, revolutions, and all sorts of interesting things.
And now here you are covering a chat with Glendora.
That's right.
David, around the Boston area?
I went to Harvard. I graduated from Harvard, and then from Columbia Graduate School of Journalism.
You did?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, my goodness. And your first job out of Columbia?
Out of Columbia, I worked for 2 small radio and television stations on the West Coast, and then for Newsday. Before it was New York Newsday.
Oh, really?
That's right, on Long Island.
Yeah.
And then the New York Times.
And were you a reporter for Newsday?
I was a reporter. I covered education. I covered the courts and the police and general assignment, anything that came along.
You like reporting, don't you?
I enjoyed reporting a lot, yes.
So that's why you're very good for the public relations business, because you're communicating.
Well, I understand how to communicate, and I understand what it takes to communicate and what it takes to help people present their messages to the public. And,
yeah. David, now, how did you go from the Newsday to the Times, and what did you do on the Times?
Well, I began as an assistant to the foreign editor of the Times, and I had many friends who worked there. They all said that I should come to the Times, and it seemed like a very good idea, so that's what I did.
Boy, you had to be good to get a job like that.
And then I worked on the metropolitan staff for 5 more years. I covered politics and transportation. I was in Albany. And then I went overseas to Bangkok, Thailand.
Oh, good.
As Southeast Asia Bureau Chief. And after that, I went to Eastern Europe, based in Belgrade, as the East European Bureau Chief of the Times. Then came back to New York at the time when the Metropolitan Transportation Authority was an important story, and I covered transportation in New York for a year.
Oh, how interesting. And then after that, did you go to CBS?
Then I went to CBS, spent a year in New York, learning how to do television, which you already know how to do. And then I went to Paris for 6.5 years.
You did? You were... but you were with CBS 12 years, weren't you?
No, I was with CBS for 7 years, and with the
6.5 of them were in Paris.
And 6.5 in Mexico, and we helped them win that battle. In fact, we've been working with Merrill Lynch after the October market crash to explain just what the stock market means to people and how they should invest. And we've been working, for instance, with Digital Equipment Corporation, which is, of course, always locked in a day-to-day battle with IBM, and we're helping them as well.
Yeah, we are. We're 48% of the country right now.
Oh, bless your
In
heart.
the fourth quarter, we'll be at 50% of the country.
Really?
Yeah.
Isn't that terrific?
Every other household.
Really?
Yeah. Well, right now we've invested heavily in a primetime schedule with Miami Vice.
Yes.
Murder, She Wrote. These are right off the network.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's sort of history, isn't it? That's the first time a cable company did that?
That's true. That's true. In addition to that, we have first run, which we create the Hitchcock and the Bradburys, their original programming, all original programming.
Isn't it great?
It's kind of nice. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
I was the first woman actually in sales at a major network.
Hooray!
One of the first women to be hired at ABC.
Really?
Yeah.
In sales?
In sales.
Oh my goodness,
They needed a good woman, and I was there.
Oh, you
Timing
betcha.
was everything.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah. I stayed there for almost 13 years.
Wow,
I
good for you.
I sold network television, primetime network television time there for 10 years, and then I left to go to MTV.
You did?
Yeah.
And you sold for MTV?
I sold for MTV for a while. Because cable is what's happening. It's the wave of the future. It's here. It's damaged the networks considerably now. Any of the new Nielsen numbers that are out, you'll see that cable is taking share and reach away from the networks. Yeah, it's squeezing the whole network. Hurts me, in a way, in a way.
And at MTV, you sold advertising.
I did, I did. Our chief executive officer, oh yeah, the best, just the smartest. We've been in the black for a long time. Thank you, Kay. Thank you, Kay. She's just wonderful. You should interview Kay. She'll tell you a few things.
We will.
Yeah, it's the best. Probably the most exciting part is going out and meeting people and selling them something. selling them something probably they don't want, but selling them something, showing them a product that's fabulous, that works, that they can be proud of, and move product.
That's right. Columbia Federal Savings Bank.
Columbia Federal is a $150 million institution located in Westport, Connecticut. And we serve primarily the local communities surrounding Westport.
Oh, you've done wonderfully. Where were you born, Michael?
I was born in Reading, Connecticut, which is very close to Westport.
Very nice, yeah.
First job was pilot for the Marine Corps.
Really?
And it was after that that I went into banking.
Oh, how interesting. You were in the Marine Corps.
Right.
I think that's wonderful. Did you go overseas?
I sure did.
Yeah, a lot, huh? Where to?
I went to Vietnam.
Wow, yeah. And so after that you came back. Is that when you went to Iona?
I came back, no, I got started in banking in Danbury, Connecticut.
Danbury.
And then I worked at Westchester Federal Savings and Loan in New Rochelle.
Did you?
It's there that I started going to school at Iona for my master's degree.
Oh, good. You got your master's in what, Michael?
Master's in finance.
In finance.
Right.
Yeah. How did you start out at the bank? Did you start way down at the bottom?
I started at the bottom.
I think that's terrific.
I think so. I started as a teller and worked my way up to branch manager. And
that's how you do it, huh?
Right. Well, that's how some of us do it.
Yeah, and then after branch manager?
After branch manager, I went to another institution, and I was operations officer there, and then I went on to another institution, and I was the financial officer there, and finally I went to Columbia, where I since have become president.
I think that's great. How did you start at Columbia?
I started as the financial officer.
You did, yeah.
Right. With the people, not only the people that work for me and work with me, but also the people in the community. And the fact that a bank does help the community, not only in saving and investing money, but also in lending and being able to buy homes and new cars.
Yeah, and keep things moving.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I went right in the Navy. And then after the Navy, I went back into radio, where I had started while I was in college at a student radio station on campus.
Really? That's how you got your start?
Everyone has to be bad somewhere, and that was my opportunity. Then I went on to sales in Chicago with a radio station there, and then I came to New York 2 years later, and I've been here ever since.
And what did you do when you came to New York?
Well, I was working for a radio station in Cincinnati.
In Cincinnati? So you was a rep?
I was a rep for them, right.
The kids know what a rep is.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we've taught them that.
Oh, terrific. Then I went into, the rest of my career was really with radio station sales and sales management and television sales and sales management up until currently with CBN.
CBN. And what companies were you with between the radio station and CBN?
Oh, I spent initially, I went with CBS in Chicago.
Yes.
And then from there I came to New York for WLW, which was at the time Crosley Broadcasting.
Yes.
In Cincinnati. And then from there I went with ABC Radio Network. And I spent 5.5 years with them. That's a pin commemorating the 10th anniversary of the CBN cable network.
Oh.
We went into satellite distribution back in 1977 with CBN WTBS and HBO at that time were the three original satellite-delivered programming services.
10 years is a big number in cable TV.
It is, because cable is a relatively new medium,
Yeah.
and there are not very many cable networks that can boast 10 years of successful programming.
Cablevision systems in Westchester, right, Michael?
That's correct.
And they are what now?
There are Yonkers and Fort Chester, and we have an office in Yorktown, which covers quite a bit of central Westchester County.
Oh, I think that's wonderful. Michael, where were you born?
I was born in a very small town called Sturgis, Michigan, which actually started in cable, and they sent me to a very small town on the Ohio River in southern Indiana, and there was no cable system there, and it was a very small town, and they said, here, go build cable there.
Oh, boy!
And I'd been to school and thought I knew what cable was, but when I got there, I discovered that I really didn't know a lot about it. So that was, it took about, I was there about 3 years.
Did you get your system built?
I got the system built, it was launched, I got it marketed, and it was a success. And
What fun. You know, I think you were pretty lucky.
yeah, I was. And
That's a great opportunity.
It was very hard work, you know, but it was a tremendous opportunity.
Yes.
And I think I learned more in that than I ever have anything else I've ever done.
You did everything, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
You did everything. I think that's a grand opportunity.
I was the janitor, I was,
Yeah.
I was the bookkeeper, you name it, I did it.
How many subscribers did you get?
We eventually had about 1,500.
Well, I think that's terrific.
That's one of the biggest ones.
Yes.
And I worked for them for a little bit over 3 years in the Detroit area.
In the Detroit area?
Yes.
Right. And did you know Robert Wright? You remember Robert Wright, who's the Chief Executive Officer and President of NBC? Remember? He was President of Cox Cable. Did you ever meet him while you were there?
Yes, I did a few
He's
times.
a nice person, isn't he?
Yes, he is.
Very nice person. You hear that, David Letterman? And then you went from Cox to Cablevision Systems, Inc.?
Well, in the meantime, there was another company called Adams Russell.
Oh, yes, yes.
And Adams Russell was just purchased by Cablevision.
That's it.
That's how I came to be with Cablevision.
I see. You went from there to Adams Russell, and then you were in Waltham, Massachusetts.
Yes, I was.
Uh-huh. And you were a head of operations or something?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes,
And
correct.
then I think you were in charge of a couple of cable systems, weren't you, too?
Well, 14.
And where were those? Mostly in the Northeast?
They were mostly in the Northeast. There was one in Arkansas and one in Missouri,
Gee.
and some in upstate New York, and mostly Massachusetts and Maine.
Yeah. On the grow.
Definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
the wave of the future, and I think in the next several years, it's going to become more and more a part of life in America.
Oh, that's terrific. Now, Michael, what advice would you give a youngster today to get started in cable television, since he's not going to be able to build his own system?
Well, I think the most important things are to learn as much as you can about everything, because even though education is important and you can get specific information and education which will help you get started, when you get into it, what you really need is common sense and wisdom and a variety of knowledge about a lot of different things, and particularly about people. Everything revolves around people. And how to get along with people and get people to know and do what you would like them to do. And that's what management is all about. So everything you learn, everything you do becomes part of what you are and who you are.
Yeah.
And
Well, here you are at NBC on the 6th floor on the west side, and this is Frank Accarino. Frank, tell the boys and girls what your title consists of and what it means.
It's Vice President, Production Operations for NBC in New York.
Production Operations.
Right, and we're responsible for a lot of things that go on in the building.
You are?
Yep.
Could you give us some of them, Frank? I know there's a lot.
Well, we have the news, the sports, and the entertainment areas.
Oh, my goodness.
So that's all the crews for the Today Show and NBC News at Sunrise.
Really?
And Nightly News.
And Letterman?
And David Letterman on the entertainment side. And Phil Donahue's program.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that's great. And News 4 and all those?
News 4 New York, every edition.
Now, operations exactly is what? See, the boys and girls are trying to look for a career. Tell them what operations is.
Well, it entails a lot of things at a network, especially at NBC. It entails the original planning, the planning which you determine the number of engineering people.
Oh.
And then you select the best people from a manpower pool.
Oh.
And then we work out of a control room in a studio.
I should
Today's
think
show.
that'd be so interesting.
Well, it keeps everybody real busy.
Yes, but it does. Down 2 blocks to 575 Fifth Avenue, and this is Mr. Raymond Johns, and he's the President and Chief Operating Officer of CellTel. Raymond, tell the boys and girls what CellTel is.
Sure, Glendora. CellTel is a national organization that sells television time for TV stations coast to coast. We have 17 offices nationwide, and we sell the commercial time that you see. When you watch United Airlines, a commercial, we sold it.
You did?
We put it there.
You did, huh?
Absolutely.
Like you go around and call on the
Advertising agencies.
Yeah.
What happens is the advertising agencies have dollars to spend
Yes.
on TV stations around the country, and they'll come to us to take that time, put it on the air so they can see the commercials and move the product.
Now, like for instance, a station in Kansas City.
Right.
Yeah, like you go to the advertising agency, say, here's a goodbye, and you
Right.
put your commercial on such and such station in
And
Kansas
the
City.
reasons why that station and why that program is specifically good for the type of audience that advertiser is trying to reach.
Gee, I think that's fun.
It's an exciting business. I went to my first rep firm. It was called Peters Griffin Woodward, and I began as a beginner
That's
rookie
a famous
salesperson.
one, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's very famous. They were, I remember not Tom Griffin, Lloyd Griffin.
Lloyd Griffin, it was a president.
Right,
That's
he
true.
was president, right. Range of a salesperson as a rep to make, what is it? Is $90,000 a year good?
Beginning salesperson with no experience whatsoever will start probably in the mid to $20,000 range.
Yeah.
A good salesman, a real good salesman makes between 40 and 80 and 90, and an excellent salesman makes between 90 and 125,000.
Wow, so you see it's worth going after.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And getting to management, it's a lot more money than that.
Gee, thanks a lot, Raymond John.
Glendora, my pleasure.
It was really exciting to meet you. Take care.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You bet. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Insurance company. Now, what do they do, Paul?
Well, title insurance companies insure people when they buy a house that the person that they're buying it from is the true owner and that he doesn't have a whole lot of liens against them.
Okay.
In a law firm with my father.
With your father?
Yes.
Oh, your daddy was a lawyer.
My father's an attorney in Yonkers.
Oh, good. Or did you have a lot of discussion with yourself?
When I was in high school, I pretty much decided I
You did
wanted
wanna-
to become an attorney.
You did.
And I just went for it.
Yeah.
Basically, sit down and you have to think very carefully. If you want to spend 7 years of your life going to college, going to law school, studying very hard, when you get to law school, approximately 40% of the first-year class flunks out.
Wow.
And that's a tremendous, tremendous burden. So you have to go in there full of vim and vinegar, ready to study, put in the hours, get through, and then when you get through 3 years of law school, you have a 2-day bar exam that you have to go through. And you have to cram for that. There's special courses for that that takes 6 weeks.
Oui.
You take that course, you take the exam, and then it takes about 4 months before you get the results of that exam.
Wow.
No computerization there.
You're on pins and needles.
Yes.
And you don't know which way.
All of a sudden you get a notice in the mail one day,
Yeah.
and they tell you passed or you failed.
To a person who wears a digital watch, if they say that the world is getting smaller, then how come the price of the airline tickets is getting bigger? And Peter says
that more people would pay attention to the Electoral College if they had a football team. Folks, there are 5 billion ballpoint pens manufactured in the United States every year. Can you tell us why there's never one at the telephone when you have to take a message? And if this is such a small world, we'd all like to know, why does it cost so much to run it? Folks, a neurotic is a person who builds castles in the air, a psychotic is a person who lives in castles in the air, and a psychiatrist is a person who collects rent from both of them. Don't you love those great, great big words that psychiatrists use? For instance, a psychiatrist says, you're suffering from cashew maraschino syndrome. You know what that means? You're nutty as a fruitcake. There's a sign in the restaurant window, and it says blended coffee. And one of the customers asked, what's in the blend? And the waitress says, yesterday's and today's. Now, in a filling station, there was a restaurant in a filling station, and in the restaurant there was a sign that says, eat here and get gas. Ed says that he has the problem about retirement. He's too old to work, and yet he's too poor to retire. A retirement party is when the boss says all those great things about you that he never said every time you asked for a raise. And Tom at the retirement party was supposed to say, when we heard that you were retiring, we all got together to give you a little memento. But this, he got all mixed up and he made this mistake. He says, when we heard that, this was at the party, and he says, when we heard that you were retiring, we all got together to give you this little momentum. At Paul's retirement party, the boss said, we had this special gold watch made for you to honor you for your many years with our company. It's a special gold watch. It takes a lot of winding up. It's very often late, and at 4:45 it stops work.
Oh, you have Cablevision of Yonkers?
Right.
Yes, you do. And what else in Westchester? Anything else?
No, that's it.
That's it, yeah, well, that's a plenty. Now, this is Mr. Charles Dolan, and he's the founder of Cablevision, along with a whole lot of other things. And when he comes back, boys and girls, he's going to tell you what his work consists like, to see if you'd like a cable career, and then he's going to give you some advice how to get started in cable television. And this is a chat with Glendora. Mr. Dolan, could you give us an idea of the flavor and excitement of your work?
Well, there's a lot of excitement. There's so much involved in cable television. One, you are putting together programs that you believe that people who are your subscribers will want to see. So we have organized sports programming. We telecast all of the games of the Islanders, and we do the Yankees and the Mets and the Devils and the Nets and so forth. And we enjoy putting those programs together, doing those telecasts. And we have another service called Bravo, which is the performing arts and international film, and still another American movie classics, which are the great films of all time. So we have that programming aspect. We produce our own news programs. We do programs that tell people about all of the channels that we have, etc. So there is the idea of programming, which is a very important part of cable television.
issues, also on service issues as to new products and so forth. And someone has to speak for the company. And when a company is as big as Texaco, you really need one person who will be the spokesman, one person who will deal with the press, the newspapers, the radio, and television, explaining the position of the company in a number of different issues.
A lot of them, and then Texaco has so many offices all over the world.
Well, it sure does. We are located in 140 countries around the world. Where they are subject to criticism, that's positive or negative. Let other people tell you what they think of your work, and it's hard sometimes to get but learn from the criticism. People are going to help you. The other thing is, let's say if you're interested in broadcasting, get involved with the radio club at school, or if maybe you have an opportunity to make public address announcements, reading the weather or the news or the sports scores and so forth over the PA system. But there's nothing like actually doing it. And when you read about and study and know some of the leading journalists and public relations people, they've learned by doing. And it's not something that's very difficult, and you'll find that the criticism will begin to roll off your back, and learn how to accept the good and the bad, and you really learn that way. And I think in media work you must do it right.
Healthcare company. The division that I work in markets Excedrin and Bufferin and Ban.
Oh my, we've heard of all of those.
And throughout the company, we have the Clairol products.
You do?
We do. We have the nutritional products, Enfamil and nutritional formulas.
Oh my.
And we make a number of very important physician drugs.
You do?
We do, prescription drugs.
So you have any toothpaste?
No, we don't.
You don't? You used to, didn't you?
Years ago, we had Ipana.
Ipana, that's the one that I purchased years ago. So,
Well, no, I started with a company called Richardson Vicks that marketed VapoRub, NyQuil, Oil of Olay.
And cough
And
drops.
cough drops, that's right.
Oh, you did?
Yes,
and
I did.
That's over in Connecticut, isn't it?
That's in Connecticut. It was acquired a few years ago by the Procter & Gamble company.
Yes.
And in your after-school activities, get a chance to work in a business and get a little sense of what it's about. Then you distinguish yourself from a lot of other people and get prepared to do a good business background. And a final thing is leadership. To be successful in business, you have to learn how to work with people. Pull them together to make something happen. So extracurricular activities like clubs or Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts can be a great chance to learn how to work with people and be a leader.
Tell them about Good Times Home Video.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to meet you.
Good Times Home Video is a new company that started just 2 years ago, and it's designed to bring video, movies, entertainment to the home at affordable prices.
Oh, that's good. Did you say under $10?
It's going to be a product that's going to be affordable by all families. Some of the prices will be $5, $6, $7, $8, $9, or $10.
Isn't that wonderful? And you'll be able to buy them where?
These products will be available in supermarkets and drugstores and in the mass market generally.
Oh, that's great. And you have some of the titles you have are like Hanna and Barbera cartoons?
We have many cartoons. We have some from Jim Henson and the Muppet Babies.
The Muppet Babies. Oh, boy.
And they're really exciting.
Yeah, this is going to be exciting.
Wonderful careers in video. You have to remember that talent is needed in front of the camera, and behind the camera there's script writing and all the production and costuming and all of the administration. I think that the best way to get started is to just start right in school, do really well in learning your English skills and your writing skills, and carry them right on into college. And of course many colleges today offer communications, which is a form of video, as a major. So you can start your formal education and take the easy road right into video from the very day you make up your mind to do it.
This man is the head of Syndicap. He's going to tell you what Syndicap is. Tell us about about those wonderful shows that you syndicate?
Will do. Happy to. Hi, guys. We are, I own a company called Syndicast Services. Syndicast Services is a television distribution organization that takes television programs and places them on the air. What we try to do is get the best time periods for the shows so that more people can look at them, so that the ratings are higher. If the ratings are higher, we can charge more money for the program. The name of the game is money and making money, and that's, we're all in the same business.
You have some famous ones like Mrs. America and Miss America and...
Well, our big hit today is DC Follies.
Yeah, DC Follies, right. That's
is,
on Channel 2 here, boys and girls.
It is on Channel 2. It's at later than we'd like. It's at 11:45 at night on Saturday night, but it's a real smash show, and we're really happy about it. You may have ability to do things you like and see them to be fulfilled. That is important. So I enjoy that a whole lot. That has always been motivating me to succeed or to go forward.
Is it creative and it's a contribution?
It is a contribution to a great degree. Yes.
You betcha. Now, let's talk, what advice would you give us in program syndication today?
Hard work, dedication, the ability to start from the beginning, not to think you're better than anybody else. The competition is immense. The competition is strong, but the
of Time Incorporated in Rockefeller Center, and this is Tommy Harris, and he's a controller. Tommy, won't you tell the boys and girls what a controller does?
Well, in the job that I have here, there are several functions. The typical controller function really relates to the accounting piece of what happens in the company.
Okay.
In accounting, it's really looking at transactions, identifying the cost of a transaction and how that affects the company's results.
Oh.
The other pieces of it involve insurance for the company, procuring insurance. I mean, a company has lots of risk. Employees go out every day. They work. We have a cable company, for instance, that's located in Denver, Colorado. These employees go around, they do work at customers' homes, and as they cause, when they cause damage, I mean, the company is liable for the damage that they cause. So a part of my business is to go out and procure coverage for those risks.
Yeah.
The other thing that I have is, in the controller's job here, is we have a data processing operation. I mean, we've got a computer here, which really is the machinery that we use to do the actual bookkeeping.
Oh, really?
Right.
Bookkeeping.
To do the bookkeeping. So that's a very complex operation, but very important.
Yes, and very interesting.
Right, that's right. Elements. And first of all, and it's something that you need no matter what you do if you want to be successful, I think, and that's to get an education. The second thing is to have a commitment in terms of following through on what you want to do. If you have an idea, then you've got to devote time and energy to invest it and make sure that you're successful.
Yes, right.
So I think those are really the most important ingredients: education and a commitment to following through.
Well, New York Advisory Group is a full-service financial planning firm.
Oh!
We advise people on how to invest and spend their money.
Oh boy, that's good. And you cover everything, I bet. Bonds and stocks and...
Investments, insurance contracts. We do some work with home mortgages.
Do you?
Tax preparation.
Yes?
Yes.
Oh, that's great. And where are you located?
We're located in Tarrytown, New York, on Route 119 by the Marriott Hotel.
Yes, right. That's
that more attractive to a potential recruiter if they have a good college education.
So that's number one.
Right. That would be the first priority. The second priority would be to research the type of financial services that you would want to get involved in, because financial services entails a lot of different directions. You can get involved in banking, accounting, even law to a certain degree is involved in financial services.
Company.
Yes.
We're a subsidiary, headquarters in Tokyo, and we've been in the photographic business, making films and cameras, and now tapes. And
oh, you make tapes?
yes, we make tapes.
Mm-hmm.
Videotapes, just like you're using.
Oh, of course you do. I bought a lot of your tapes. You bought a lot of your cassettes.
Right.
Yeah, right. Yes. I was off on another plane thinking about 1 inch. Sure, I bought your tapes. They're excellent.
Thank you.
And cameras. You have Fuji cameras?
Right, we have cameras.
Girls, please, what the most interesting parts of your work are?
I think the most interesting part of the work is that we're creating a product, pictures that everybody uses. I mean, we live in a picture world, and I think our country has developed such a familiar thing that we like to look at pictures, and we carry pictures, and we take a lot of pictures. That wasn't always true, but right now it is. I came down the elevator, and this young lady opened her wallet, and there was about 5 pictures of her boyfriend and various people that she was carrying with them. And so I think people are always going to take pictures and have them in hard copies.
Hi there, folks. We have to do an insert edit. The camcorder got damaged. When the camcorder was sick, it damaged the videotape. And on the videotape were 4 jokes that belong to you. And so we have to do those jokes over, because you need all the laughs that you can get. So here's the jokes. Now, this is a maternity hospital, and it's a waiting room. And the nervous new father said to the man next to him, "Here, have a cigar." And the man next to him said, "Oh, congratulations. What is it, a boy or a girl?" And the nervous new father says, "I don't know one cigar from another." Now, have you heard about the gardener's exercise program? Okay, you start out fresh as a daisy, and you end up bushed. Now, Richard Simmons says that swimming will give you a good physique, a good figure. But I'm not too sure about that, folks. Have you ever taken a close look at a duck? Annette said to the taxi cab driver, "Could you back up for 1.5 miles?" And the taxi driver says, "Why?" Annette says, "Because I'm $1.50 short." This is the addition to Glendora Cheerful Look at Life. Now, what do you say we go to interview some more people to tell the children how they started on their careers and how the children can start on such careers themselves today? And girls, I'd like to have you meet Thomas Little, who's with Golan Harris Communications, and of course that was Carmino Cat just about to get fur all over Thomas's pretty new suit. Thomas, tell the boys and girls what Golan Harris Communications is.
Well, Golan Harris Communications is one of the largest public relations companies in the United States.
Wow.
McDonald House.
Tell us where you were born.
I was born in Columbus, Ohio, but raised in Peoria, Illinois. So I'm basically a Midwesterner, center, heartland of the country.
And where'd you go to school?
I went to high school in Peoria, but then went to school at Northwestern University.
You did? Oh, that's
Evanston,
a good one.
Illinois. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you take? Did you School of Communications?
Well, basically it was. It wasn't called the School of Communications then. It was part of their overall communications area, but it was primarily journalism and primarily advertising.
I see.
In Berlin for the travel and tourism, and so we had we had a couple people down in Washington D.C. when the mayor of Berlin was here for his annual meeting with President Reagan in the White House, and we set up a bunch of interviews with him. One minute we could be working on a new
give us more. Amen.
I practiced in the city with a large firm for a very short period.
Yes.
And then left and came back to Westchester County and spent my entire professional life in Westchester County in the 9th Judicial District, some of that time in the state court. And last June, I went into the federal court, and I'm in Manhattan again.
Yes, but it was such an interesting progression. Now, what was the first one?
The first court?
First court, yes.
Well, after 12 years of practicing law,
Yes.
I went to the family court.
The family court in Westchester County?
In Westchester County.
I see.
Served there for 3 years.
Yes.
And then went on to the Westchester County Court.
Westchester County Court.
That's a court that tries criminal cases primarily.
Yes.
Spent 4 years in the county court.
In the county court.
And then was elected to the New York State Supreme Court.
Oh.
And I served there for approximately 7 years.
What an interesting career.
Well, it's been a lot of fun.
Chester and
And Dutchess.
Boy, that's a big district, isn't it?
Well, it was a lot of fun traveling around the different courthouses.
You enjoyed
and
that, yeah?
I did. I enjoyed it very much. You felt somewhat analogous to Abe Lincoln when he was a circuit rider.
When he was a circuit rider, right. And then you were appointed.
Well, then I received a telephone call from the president. It happened to be on my mother's birthday.
Really?
And he told me that he was going to nominate me to the federal bench, the district court.
Ooh.
And by coincidence, my mother was present in my chambers when I received the call. And he asked to speak with her and wished her a happy birthday. I thought that was really nice.
President Ronald Reagan?
Yes, he did.
Isn't that
And
a
she
thrill?
instantly became a hit with the senior citizens in Pelham, where she lives.
I bet she did, right?
She did.
Oh, isn't that a thrill? So there you were, and here came a call from the president.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a big thrill. And your mom was a big hit with him, huh?
That's correct.
Yeah. Now, when's your mom's birthday? When was that?
Well, it was on January 18th, and it was a year ago,
Yeah.
this past
Oh, I
January.
bet she was thrilled.
She was.
I
She
bet
was
she was thrilled.
indeed.
Well, you know, my mom met Ronald Reagan.
Did she?
Yes, she did,
Where?
really. In Buffalo, New York. He came there, boys and girls, to run for president to get the Republican nomination, and it was the first time. It was, how did that go now? He ran for it, and then who won? Ford.
Well, that was a nomination, I think.
Yeah.
This was
that
in the primaries.
It was,
you're
it
talking
was
about.
that,
Mhm.
yeah. And then Ford got it, and then he came back again. Yeah. Oh, it's a thrill to meet the president, I tell you.
Or go over to the courthouse and watch some trials.
Oh.
I think that might at least familiarize you with what the practice of law may be like.
That's a good idea.
And, of course, a preparation, an academic preparation for any profession is important.
AT&T very near your college education?
Right after I got out of the Army, I went to work for AT&T.
Oh, you were in the Army for a while.
Right, and I started in the sales department.
You did?
Right, and while I was in the sales department, I decided to go to law school.
You did?
And in retrospect, it was a marvelous idea. It worked out very nicely for me.
What gave you the idea to go to law school?
Well, it's like the old Jimmy Stewart line. My father always wanted me to be a lawyer, and finally I decided that he was right. And you have to understand that we live in a very complex society, and no matter how good a product you have, no matter how good your science and technology is, you have to recognize that there are people outside your company, customers and regulatory commissions and Congress and courts that affect the future of your business. So external affairs is a department within AT&T that deals with the external environment so that we can be a successful company. I represent AT&T to people outside of the corporation, and I represent these people back to the corporation of AT&T. So it's a very interesting and exciting job, and it's a job that you come into work in the morning and most of the time you don't know what's going to hit you that day.
20 years old to go to
long time. This is Mr. Stephen Kapinski, and he's Director of Advertising Services for Nestle Foods. Hi, Steve.
Hi, how are you today?
Oh, good. How are you?
Fine.
Won't you just start out and tell the boys and girls what Advertising Services is?
Advertising Services for Nestle Foods is the department that's responsible for buying all the advertising time on television and in magazines and newspapers and on radio, and also the department's responsible for making the commercials that you see in these different media.
What a fascinating job. I bet you love it.
I certainly do.
Yes, and Nestle's buys a lot of that, don't they?
We spend about $120 million a year on advertising.
Wow, really?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's so fascinating. Steve, girls, the parts of your work that you love the best?
I think what I love the best about my job is the ability to solve problems. You'd be amazed how much day by day, in every day, a problem comes up with one brand or another. The one thing that I didn't mention before is that we have about 25 brands. So one way or another, someone's always in trouble and needs a little bit of relief.
Is Bob Hope?
The personnel department, the advertising, public relations, public affairs, our quality process, as well as our relationship with a joint venture in Japan called Fuji Xerox.
Fuji Xerox, huh?
Yeah. And then I became the manager of that particular department in 1967. Xerox was growing very, very rapidly, and we were hiring lots of people, so there were good opportunities for people who joined them then.
Yes.
First of all, I find working in business very, very exciting. I can honestly say, having worked now 28 years as a full-time employee, 3 with Ford and 25 with Xerox, that I've never had a dull, boring day. I've gotten mad sometimes, and I've been a little frustrated, but it's always exciting. There's always something different coming up, a different kind of problem that needs to be solved and analyzed. And the opportunities for self-satisfaction in terms of analyzing a problem, making a decision or making a recommendation, and then having that recommendation implemented. I often say to myself at the end of the day, boy, I wish I had the discipline to dictate one of the unusual things that happened to me during that day, a different kind of business problem, and it would be a best seller. I enjoy
Board of Trustees at Marymount College in Terrytown. Mr. Reed brings to the board capabilities in the areas of policy and strategic direction for advertising, public relations, public affairs, and personnel, for which he is responsible at Xerox. Mr.
Broad-based communications company. We have cable television companies. We have cable television networks like Showtime, Movie Channel, MTV, Nickelodeon. Yes.
Big ones.
Big ones. We have 5 television stations. We have 9 radio stations.
Wow.
And we do a lot of programming, some of which you may have heard of, like stuff like The Cosby Show, Jake and the Fat Man, Frank's Place, Matlock.
Wow, big names. Now, when you say you do programming, what does that mean, Frank Biondi?
Well, what it means is we contract with writers and producers and develop programming, which we try to sell to network television.
Oh, then you started The Cosby Show.
Well, not really. There are two producers, Marcy Carsey and Tom Werner.
Yes.
Who got together with Bill Cosby.
Yes.
And they put together a concept, and they were working for us under what's called a development deal.
Oh, it's a development deal, and they were working for Viacom.
Right, as independent contractors.
Oh.
They're independent producers.
Oh.
And they sold the show to NBC, and the rest of it's somewhat history. And the people.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's ridiculous to work in the entertainment business unless you're in love with the product.
That's true.
I mean, you really have to enjoy entertainment for what it really is, entertainment, whether it's television or cable or animation or features. I mean, if you're not in tune and it doesn't viscerally get to you, you really won't enjoy the business.
Well, it's so creative.
Well, it's not only creative, but it's exciting. I mean,
It's exciting.
It's fun. I mean, I think that's the nice part of it. You come to the office, and it's not that it doesn't have its trials and tribulations, and there are plenty of disagreements, and there are deals that have to be worked out, and there are deals that fall apart, and there are things you wish didn't happen. That happens in every enterprise. But the end product is really fun, what it's all about, entertaining people, bringing a smile to your face, bringing a tear to your eye. I mean, that's it's what really makes the day nice.
TV, were you out in Sacramento? John was trying to impress his girl. TV, were you out in Sacramento?
Yes, I was a television news reporter for about 7 years in many markets. I started out after Columbia. My first reporting job on television was in Sacramento for the CBS affiliate.
Oh.
And then I
And you were a general assignment reporter? You covered everything?
Yes, I've covered Jerry Brown. At that time, he was the governor of California.
Yeah.
And I covered the Lynette Fromm story when President Ford was in Sacramento, and there was this attempt on his life. So I covered that and part of the trial. It's been quite exciting.
It was very exciting, yes, and big history. And from Sacramento, you went where?
Well, from Sacramento, I went to Chicago.
Chicago?
Yes, I worked for the ABC O&O station, owned and operated. And then where did I go from there?
From there you went
to Philadelphia.
Yeah, Philadelphia.
CBS.
Yeah, the WCAU TV.
That's right.
It's another O&O. Owned and operated.
You know your stuff.
Thank you. And were you a reporter there in Philly?
Yes, I was there for over 2 years. And then I came to New York as a television news reporter, worked a bit at Channel 5, and then for Cable News Network in the New York Bureau as a New York correspondent.
Isn't that interesting? That's fascinating work, isn't it?
It is. I think the best part about being a reporter is dealing with people.
Really?
Yes, and learning, because when you deal with people, you get to know about different things, and it enriches your life.
Sure it does. My goodness, here she was a reporter for CNN.
That's right. Yeah. And then after CNN, I started teaching. Teaching now at Columbia, and I teach many things. I teach reporting and writing. I'm sharing what I've learned in the field with students today, and I also teach broadcast journalism here as well.
You're lucky to have her, I think, with all that experience. Joanne, tell me about some of the stories that you covered when you worked for CNN, the New York Bureau.
I covered the Shah of Iran. At that time was at the New York Hospital.
Oh, yes,
and so we
I
staked
remember.
that out for a while. That was exciting. A story that was also very exciting, but of course a sad story, was the shooting of John Lennon.
Yeah.
And that, again, was a national story. And that story went on for a long time.
Yes, it surely did. Yeah. Boy, you covered some big ones. Is it hard to be a reporter? I mean, like CNN, they're on the air all the time,
Yes.
24 hours a day, so are you up 24 hours a day?
No, I don't even think Ted Turner's up 24 hours a day. I think that today, being a reporter is a very exciting and wonderful thing to be. And it's a lot of hard work, but it's also a lot of fun. So think about it. You know, there are a lot of things to do in television news, not just a reporter. You could be a producer, you can be a cameraman, a sound person, you can run the news department if you like. So there are a lot of things. I know you do, and you do them well.
Listen, Joanne Lee, assistant professor, journalism, graduate school, Columbia University. We thank you for being on a chat with Glendora.
Thank you.
Bye now, Joanne.
Bye.
General Foods in Rybrook, New York. We're waiting to interview Mr. Ferguson of the waiting area. And out here are the fountains. To wait for Mother Goose. Mother Goose, and she had 5 babies, and Father Goose was there, and also the mother-in-law. And that was straight down the driveway, and I can show you where that is around the curve.
Message? No, I'm not. She stepped away for a little bit.
First floor. And you're inside the building. What floor, the first or the second?
LIS International.
On this once more time. Hi, Michael. Hi, Michael.
She's not in today. She is out of the office all day at a training course.
How you could start a similar career. Hi, Mr. Ferguson.
Glendora, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you today?
Alive and well.
Now, Mr. Ferguson, would you kindly tell the boys and girls what your work consists of?
Well, I'm chairman of the executive committee of General Foods Corporation. Until about a year ago, I was chief executive officer
Yes.
of General Foods. And I have a sort of a senior advisory capacity now.
Oh, New York?
New York,
Oh,
right.
that's a wonderful college.
You bet.
You betcha it is. I can almost tell you the little tiny town that it's in.
Clinton.
Clinton, because we have a brother-in-law who lives there, and I
Oh, is
always
it?
forget the
Yeah.
name. Clinton.
I've spent the next 10 years doing that sort of thing.
What brands did you manage?
Well, I managed Gleam toothpaste.
Oh, yeah.
And I managed Lilt Home
Yeah.
Permanent.
Those are very famous
And
products.
then, Procter & Gamble went into the paper business.
Yes.
Charmin Tissue.
Yes.
Puffs.
Yes.
And just about then I left.
All of the products that he managed were celebrities. You got celebrity products there.
Sure.
They're all very, very famous
Sure.
products.
And then I came to General Foods after that.
What did you do at the advertising agency?
I was an account executive.
Uh-huh. Doing similarly what you did at
That's right.
P&G.
That's right.
In Bird's Eye. And
Right.
then where'd you go?
Well, I went into another division, the Jello division.
Uh-huh.
And then I came back to the Bird's Eye division as general manager.
Yes.
And then I had a series of jobs after that as a group officer and executive vice president. So
Okay.
at one point I did, right.
See, what I'm trying to do is cover what General Foods makes
Oh, yeah,
for
that
everybody else.
takes a long time.
And what else have I left out?
Well, after I was in those jobs, when I was chief executive, actually, we acquired Oscar Mayer
Yes.
and Entenmann's
Uh-huh.
and Ron Zoni.
Enterman.
Any career, the first thing that excites you is when you get offered that first job.
Oh.
And that was exciting. You know that what they want and what you want are the same thing. Have a mutual dedication to an objective.
That's right, you're both on the same side, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and then to be a good leader, how does a youngster get a little bit of experience in how to be a good leader?
Well, I think that being a good leader basically means having the
the self-assurance to outline an objective, find out where you want to go, and then make it clear to those around you what it is that you think is important, and get them to agree with you. Exciting era that we're heading into, and I think it's a great time to start a career. I envy the people who are going to do it.
Because you'd like to do it all over again.
Right.
Window, you're looking out of the window of the office where you met Mr. Ferguson, where he just sat down and told you all that good advice. And here's another fountain. And here's more of the ever beautiful Westchester hills and trees. Again, you're at General Foods, and this is a chat with Glendora. And you've just met the chairman of the executive committee of the General Foods Corporation.
You mean you can do that with that gadget?
Here you are, boys and girls, in the cafeteria. At General Foods. That's a tree that really has a bark. General Foods Corporation, Rybrook, New York. And the former president and chief executive officer and now vice chairman of the executive committee stopped all of his work so he could talk to you, how you could start such a career. Wouldn't you like to be the president and chief executive officer of a nice big company like that? There is Mother Goose. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 goslings. One of them is named Chuck. Chuck Gosling. Now that's the mother-in-law and the father-in-law. This is a chat with Glendora, and we're at General Foods Corporation. And we're on our way out. I'm too young to be on my way out. And here comes Father, and I think Father wants me to leave. Okay, Daddy Goose.
Go to him and have him make you what you can be. And he will too. You can be whatever you want to be if God bless you, everyone.
shooting of a federal judge.
You know, my mom met Ronald Reagan.
Did she?
Yes, she did,
Where?
really. In Buffalo, New York. He came there, boys and girls, to run for president to get the Republican nomination, and it was the first time it was, how did that go now? He ran for it, and then who won? Ford.
Well, that was a nomination, I think.
Yeah.
This was
that
in the primaries.
It was,
you're
it
talking
was
about.
that,
Mhm.
yeah. And then Ford got it, and then he came back again. Yeah. Oh, it's a thrill to meet the president, I tell you.
Or go over to the courthouse and watch some trials. I think that might at least familiarize you with what the practice of law may be like.
That's a good idea.
And of course, a preparation, an academic preparation for any profession is important.
Of a federal judge. It happened this afternoon in Pelham. Officials say Justice Richard Duranko was suddenly attacked while mowing his lawn. Police say the gunman chased Duranko into his home and fired the fatal shots. Then he turned the gun on himself. The FBI is now investigating the case. Duranko was a judge in New York's Southern District. Officials say they have no idea who was behind the attack.
3 teenagers.
Anything can happen in New York.
Good evening. Jane Velez Mitchell is off tonight. John Slattery joins us. Police in Westchester County have a strange murder-suicide to handle tonight. A federal judge at home working in his garden was approached by a gunman this afternoon in Pelham. The man fired 3 shots, killing the judge. Then he turned the gun on himself.
First shot fired outside. The killer followed the judge into the house. The subsequent shot apparently fired inside the house, at which point the killer took his own life.
Federal District Court Judge Richard Duranko was working among the azaleas and hemlocks in his garden when death came. The gunman, a man in his 60s, apparently drove to the quiet neighborhood and walked to the garden with a .38 caliber pistol in hand. Police have not released the killer's name yet. They are looking to see if he was connected to a case Judge Duranko had handled.
We'll be going through state cases that he handled as a state Supreme Court judge to see whether or not some evidence of motive could come out of that. There wasn't any situation where he was threatened by someone? As I said, we can't comment at this time about threats, if any.
The judge had just been appointed to the federal bench last year, serving the Southern District of New York. He had been a Westchester Family Court judge, a state Supreme Court justice, and a state administrative judge before ascending to the federal bench.
I remember how excited he was last year when he got a call from President Reagan.
Mary Hurl had known Judge Duranko and his family for 25 years.
A very loving husband and father, always concerned about his children. There are 5 children. Full of good humor. A wonderful trumpet player.
He was a great guy, and it's just, I don't know, it's just really unfair that this happened to him. He was really on his way up, and he got stopped before anything could happen.
Judge Duranko's wife and daughter were at home when he was killed. He died in his study. His killer, a few feet away, ended the episode with a single shot to his own head.
It is a trap.
Computer checks later revealed that no such name surfaced in any of the judge's federal cases. Checks of the state cases would take longer. One theory was the gunman may have been someone the judge had sentenced in a trial. Pelham is a town of less than 6,000, and in the quiet and very affluent neighborhood where Judge Richard Duranko lived, most of the neighbors knew him.
He's a blessed man. I know the whole family, his mother and everybody. I work for them.
Any idea why someone would want to kill him?
I don't know. God Almighty.
And he was just one of the finest men I knew. And I thought he was just a hell of a guy.
I felt that this is a quiet suburban community and these things just don't happen here.
Paul Duranko is the judge's brother. He is also the town supervisor of Pelham. He was at the scene today, comforting the judge's wife, daughter, and mother. Understandably, he didn't want to talk to reporters. Judge Duranko had been on the federal bench just a short time, too short a time to be involved with any really controversial cases. Ironically, his first controversial trial was coming up. He had just been selected to preside over the trial of 2 police officers charged in the New York City Transit Police false arrest scandal. John Miller, News 4, Pelham.
And tonight, police investigating any connection between that alleged killer, Charles Custer, and cases Judge Duranko tried while he was the supervising judge of criminal court in Westchester. Carol?
Black Muslim.
Diego.
This is USA Tonight with Marvin Scott.
Good evening, everyone. An identification and a motive in the murder of federal judge Richard Duranko. He was shot to death yesterday outside his Pelham home, and tonight, as Colleen Hunt reports, the motive for the murder is linked to a case he once handled.
It was just 4 days ago that federal judge Richard Duranko decided on a case that had been in litigation for many years. It was a decision that cost him his life. The motive, revenge. The FBI revealed tonight it was an enraged ex-New York City cop, furious about the judge's decision against his daughter in a civil suit, who tracked down the judge in the backyard of his home yesterday. Charles Coster shot the judge, and when the judge ran inside to escape, Coster followed. He pumped several bullets into Judge Duranko, then turned the gun on himself. The reason? Coster's daughter Carol Lee lost her sexual harassment lawsuit against her employer Chase Manhattan and a co-worker, Alan Ross.
After approximately 7 years of litigation and the assignment of this case to 3 different federal judges, the lawsuit, which involved charges of sexual harassment and salary discrimination, finally went to trial. On May 19, 1988, Judge Duranko issued a decision against Carol Lee Coster in this matter. The decision was mailed out from his office on May 19th.
This young neighbor of the judge was the last to see him before the gunman appeared.
I was riding down the street, and he was cleaning up his yard, and he goes, "How you doing, big guy?" And I just said hello back to him. It was about 30 seconds after I saw him when the shots were fired.
You heard them?
Yes, I did. I was maybe 100 yards away.
Did you see anything?
No, I didn't. I just thought they were fireworks.
Charles Coster was tracked down by a library card he had in his wallet. He had traveled from Bath, Pennsylvania, where he most recently lived, to the affluent New York suburb of Pelham on his murder-suicide mission.
The family was totally consumed with this case, and it had become a crusade in their life. It was also believed that Charles Coster, who was a retired New York City police officer, had exhausted his life savings in pursuit of his daughter's litigation.
The FBI says that although Coster's wife and daughter also appeared to be totally consumed by the lawsuit, a suicide note Coster left behind stated he was acting completely alone on his death mission. But tonight the FBI is interviewing the pair. Judge Duranko was recently interviewed on a cable TV show and had this advice for young people who want to go into law.
If you wish to be a judge, I would think that you should attempt to have a great deal of patience, be able to listen to both sides of a controversy, and not jump to a conclusion.
The judge is survived by a wife and 5 children. In Pelham, New York, this is Colleen Hunt reporting.
Authorities in Illinois are still...
And Charles Kuralt for a rare look at Russia's long-hidden treasures, beginning Wednesday on the CBS Evening News.
This is CBS.
His daughter loses a case in court, and he guns down the judge. Coming up next, new details about the man who carried out a death sentence at the Pelham home of Judge Richard Duranko. And he is charged...
Monday at 6 and 11.
Now, Reggie Harris, Jane Velez-Mitchell, John Bolaris with weather, and Bob Goldshaw with sports. This is Channel 2 News Sunday. Everything you need to know, because anything can happen in New York.
Good evening. Jane Velez-Mitchell is off tonight. Brian Williams joins us. There are new details tonight about the man who gunned down a federal judge as he worked in his Westchester garden. At an FBI news conference tonight, officials revealed that just 2 days before the killing, the gunman's daughter lost a major lawsuit. The judge presiding over the case, Judge Richard Duranko. Channel 2's Randall Pinkston has the latest.
Federal authorities say revenge was the motive. A retired New York City police officer, Charles Coster, the alleged murderer of U.S. District Judge Richard Duranko, gunned down outside his home Saturday afternoon in Pelham.
Was working in his lawn, mowing the lawn, working in his yard when he was accosted by Mr. Coster.
The FBI says Coster was apparently upset over Duranko's handling of a sex discrimination suit filed in 1981 by Coster's daughter, Carol Lee Coster, against Chase Manhattan Bank. The FBI says Judge Duranko was the 3rd federal jurist to handle Carol Lee Coster's discrimination suit against Chase Manhattan Bank. He ruled against her May 19th. 2 days later, her father parked his car near Judge Duranko's home, then walked up with a .38 caliber revolver, shooting the jurist and chasing him inside his house.
At the point when the assailant was satisfied that the judge was dead, turned the weapon on himself, and commits suicide by inflicting a wound to his head.
The FBI says Coster retired from the New York City Police Department in 1969. A department spokesman said Coster was last assigned to the mounted unit. Authorities found a suicide note in his home in Bath, Pennsylvania.
The suicide note indicates strong displeasure with the judge's decision. It also indicates that Charles Coster acted alone.
Coster's wife and daughter were also questioned by federal authorities, but no charges have been filed. The 56-year-old Duranko was survived by his wife and 5 children and a host of relatives, including his brother Paul, the Pelham town supervisor. One of the slain juror's sons read a statement from the family.
His family is all together and deeply mourning their loss. We wish to thank the many friends that have shown their grief and support. The family's main request is that they be left to mourn the passing of their loved one in seclusion. Thank you.
Funeral services are scheduled for Wednesday. In Pelham, Randall Pinkston, Channel 2 News.
Also, the county community tries to recover from the murder of a federal judge. We have reaction tonight, including a report from Bath, Pennsylvania, the town where the gunman lived. This man is convinced that the
Witness News with Bill Butel and John Johnson. Corey McFerrin has sports. Storm Field with weather. And the Eyewitness News team. Now, Eyewitness News.
Good evening. His staff asked federal judge Richard Duranko over and over again to take his phone number and his address out of the Westchester County phone book. But he said it's fate. If they really want you, they'll find you. Charles Coster really wanted him and found him tending his garden in Pelham. Coster shot and killed him and killed himself. We know the motive Saturday afternoon was a kind of revenge, but Lewis Young reports money, too, might have had a role in this murder-suicide.
They're living a sad bit of history in Pelham tonight, preparing for the funeral of a federal judge, Judge Richard Duranko, only the second federal judge to be murdered in the last 100 years. The 56-year-old judge was shot and killed Saturday here by a man who disagreed with one of his rulings. Shot and killed by a former city police officer who felt his daughter's lawsuit against a former employer entitled her to millions in damages. The judge dismissed the case and died for it.
One of the things we're concerned about is that people would think that they can take that kind of assault on the law itself and those who are charged with the responsibility of carrying the law out.
U.S. Attorney Rudolph Giuliani tells me he reviewed the case in question, and he says Judge Duranko made the correct legal decision, the only decision he could have made. He implies one of the motives for this crime might have been greed.
They see it really as a lottery rather than as a place to do justice. I read the opinion, and there was no claim here.
The last time a federal judge was murdered was 1979 in Texas. Judge John Wood was assassinated by a hitman. The feds say the hitman was hired by a drug dealer wanting to avoid trial. Giuliani says there should be tighter security for judges, but Judge Duranko was an outgoing person, not the kind who would hide behind a security screen. He was interviewed recently on a local cable TV show about his love of the law.
See the other person's point of view, help to resolve grievances between people, and enjoy doing that.
The judge's wake will continue here tonight, and tomorrow he will be buried on Wednesday. In Pelham, Lewis Young, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
This mobile home. For the last 7 years, Coster and his wife Mary have lived in this quiet trailer park community as their daughter fought her sex discrimination case. With his wife, Coster sat through each day's testimony as a time bomb ticked away inside of him. Saturday's final violent outburst has left neighbors stunned.
Oh, shocked. Really. Unbelievable, you know? Can't believe something like this to happen.
I was really surprised to hear about this. They kept to themselves, and they probably kept all this to themselves.
Reports by people who claim to know Coster say Carolee's parents exhausted their life savings in defense of their daughter's suit. They lived in this modest trailer home in a rural section of Pennsylvania. It was a simple life, but it appears for his daughter, Charles Coster would be willing to risk anything. Yesterday evening, Mary Coster spoke to a local paper, saying that it was because Judge Duranko treated her daughter unfairly that her husband resorted to violence. It was eating away at him that Chase Manhattan Bank did what they did to her, she said. Carolee was trying to get her life going. He did it out of love for her.
Something just must have snapped. I guess everybody can get to that point, but it's really something. It's really a shock.
I couldn't believe it because he's a good, quiet people, him and his wife. Very calm.
In the end, Coster's love for his daughter...
Tonight, the